to have. So I'm so glad that we can have two amazing folks. I've worked with Cindy for a couple years now, and Stephanie and I just met a few months ago. But these two folks are just amazing humans, and I'm so thankful that they were willing and able to come and chat with us about this. So I'm going to go ahead without further ado, turn it over to Stephanie for their introductions. Like I said, please don't hesitate to ask any questions in the chat. You can unmute yourself, or you can privately send me a message and I can ask on your behalf, whichever makes sense for you. All right, I will turn it over. Thank you so much.
All right. And go ahead and advance the slides, Angie, to our nice little pictures. I think it's the third one. So, well, as Angie said, I am Stephanie Malogic, and I am the Sexual Violence Prevention Project Manager for People First Wisconsin. I am an individual with a disability, and I am also a sexual violence survivor. So I'm very pleased to be with everybody out there in Zoom land today. And we'll get to more of the content here in a second, but I am going to let my co-presenter introduce herself too. Go ahead, Cindy.
Okay, I'm the Executive Director of People First of Wisconsin. I have been the director here almost, I've been working for People First for 23 years, but I think I've been the executive director about 10 years. I was an advocate specialist. And I'm very pleased to be here today to talk to you about what I think is a most important subject that needs to be talked about. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Cindy. Oh, and then
Welcome.
if anybody needs it, I will give an audio description of myself. Sorry about that. I missed that part too. I am a white woman and I have dark short hair. And today I am wearing a black top with flower and bird print on it. So
And I probably should, yeah, probably. And I'm Cindy. I'm an African American woman. And what I'm wearing today is, of course, a flowered shirt. And I have born with an intellectual disability. So that's what I'm about. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, next slide.
So,
Do you want me to go?
Stephanie, it looks like you're breaking up a little bit. I'm wondering if the internet would be better with your camera off.
Yeah, I will turn my camera off for a second here.
Cool. We'll try that.
Yeah. Sometimes it does do that to me, so. But Cindy, did you want to go through the topics or did you want me to?
I can do it if you want me to.
Oh, go for it, yeah.
So what is People First of Wisconsin? Well, we are a statewide advocacy group. We advocate for people with and without disabilities. We believe in inclusion. Oh, so what People First of Wisconsin is? How sexual violence, rape, and assault impacts individuals, survivors with disability. And then you can do the next one down step with it, okay?
Yeah, I can do that. All right.
You're confusing me.
So we just wanted to give you an idea of what we would be talking about today. So the next item will be diverse lived experiences, and then moving forward. And then we'll go through some resources, support, and action steps.
Yeah. Right.
And then have some question and answer time at the end. So just to kind of give everybody an idea of what we'll be chatting about
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
But go ahead and do the next slide. All
And do
right.
I do that? Oh, that's the part I do?
Yeah, you don't have
Oh,
to
yeah.
read off the slide. It's a lot of words.
No, I
But
know. So I'll just say, who are People First of Wisconsin? Well, of course, we're a nonprofit organization. We've been around for 24 years. Our mission is to prove, like it said, support for people with disabilities. They have a voice. We don't believe in institutions. We do not believe in people being in any kind of segregated, and we believe in community-based services for people with disabilities. Activities, we have our chapters. We have the speaker series, which Julie runs. We have meetups, and the meetups are so critical for our organization. We have people coming from all over the state. Well, what we found out about the meetups is that people need somewhere where they can talk to us. You know, Julie started it during the pandemic, COVID. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to talk to our members. You know what I mean? So, they talk about a variety of stuff, and then we get a sense too, right? We get a sense if something's wrong, and we're able, in this way, we get to see them twice a week. I get on with Julie. We get to know what our members, are varying ages, different disabilities. Plus, they also could be, suffering from depression or mental health. But we're right on it, and we try to, handle it. Is that good, Steph?
yeah, I think
Next
that's
slide.
great.
I'm
yeah.
I'm talking from my experience more than that, but I look at it just because I need, make sure I'm doing it right.
Yeah, it makes sense, Cindy, I think.
Yeah,
Go ahead and advance the next slide.
I think it's you, right, Steph?
Yeah, well, and this is just kind of how to get involved in People First. So we are very involved in the Self-Determination YouTube channel. If you are not familiar with that, please go out on YouTube, take a look and subscribe. You can find some great video content for knowing your rights and the different work that People First does. I know you and Ashley talked about a job coach support video out there.
Yeah, me personally have a lot of videos. I'm the one of the founders that started the YouTube channel with Ashley, me, Philip, and who was the fourth one? Oh boy. The rights videos are on there. We did something on COVID during so I think it's really good. So, yeah.
Yeah, you'll see Cindy's face a lot on the Self-Determination channel. And then you can also, yeah, it's awesome. You can
Thank you,
also,
Steph.
oh, you're welcome. You can find more information about People First on their Facebook page. So head on over there and check us out.
And if you subscribe, make sure you subscribe to it, because the more people we get to subscribe to it is good. Thank you. Oh, but Vanessa has some from Vanessa. Oh, thank you.
All right.
The next slide.
Yep, next slide, please. Okay, so now we're going to get into the topic that we were here to discuss today,
Yes.
and that is sexual violence and disability. So when we looked at this, we thought a good place to start would be what are we finding out statistically? What are the numbers telling us? And what is our work telling us? So we'll go into that a little bit. And so the first thing that we want to look at is how this issue is impacting individuals with disabilities and survivors. And according to statistics, individuals with disabilities are 4 times more likely to
Mm.
rape or sexual assault victims. 83% of individuals with cognitive disabilities experience violent crime victimization. And only 19% of rapes or sexual assaults against persons with disabilities are reported to the police, compared to 36% for people without disabilities. So we're looking at a very
Yeah.
huge issue here.
And can I add something to that?
Absolutely.
So we also found, with the police department and, the justice system is in. So they don't believe people with disabilities. They just think that it's just made up. You can't make up something like that, or they'll say, oh, getting attention. We have people that can't even speak for themselves because of communication barriers, and I'd like to see on their communication boards that they have something if somebody is touching your body. And we also have to understand it's not only sexual assault of your body, there's also people, they're being punished because they can't, they'll keep them in bed all day. That's abuse. Or taking them to the bank and taking all their money out. That's also abuse. So I want people to know that. And the police, don't want to do anything about it, but also the judges. The judges don't want to take the cases because I don't know what their problem is, but they think it's a waste of their time. To me, it's not. And so we need to do a better job. We need to educate the lawyers coming up now, like at Marquette University's got this big law school. Well, they got to be teaching them about people with disabilities and really telling people they are not just making this up. And I'll tell you, I was sexually assaulted. I was in a state institution, not of my choice, and not because I was bad. I was taken away from my mom. I was sexually assaulted a few times there. And the story I want to tell you is, the person said, well, if you say anything, I'll kill you. So today is June 1st. When I got out of Southern Center in June 1st, 1984. Before I left there, I went to the administration building and I said, listen, this is what happened to me. I was afraid other people there were going to be getting sexually assaulted, okay? Or whatever I did. Well, they believed me. I knew where this happened at. I had it all in my mind. They went there that we had proof. And that's what, we had a lot of proof. And this person was, what do you call that again? Convicted, so you know. So, and the reason, and I'm going to tell it again too, because I want people to understand.
Thank you for sharing that, Cindy.
I mean, with the 93%, I'm out of that, and people look at me, I've been telling this story for a while, but people look at me like, okay, oh, this can't happen. This never happened to me. I was little, I was young. Didn't even have sexy education class. I wasn't old enough to take sexy education classes. So there you go. Thank you for listening.
I'm sorry
The
that
next,
happened to you,
yeah,
Cindy, but thank you for sharing.
you're welcome.
And I'm in this with you.
Yeah.
We've we've talked about being sisters and getting through this. So, and I really appreciate,
Amen.
yeah, I really appreciate your willingness to share that.
Yeah.
And I noticed when you were speaking, you were talking about some of the barriers that people experience to reporting. And
Yeah.
we do have some of those listed. So if we can go to the next slide, we can go into more detail about that as well. And the very first point goes back to what you were saying, Cindy, which is
Yeah.
not being believed or seen
Mhm.
as reliable witnesses when you're reporting something.
Yep.
Um, and I just want to add that this information is coming not just from us. We are doing work in the Sexual Violence Prevention Project to find out why this is happening, what the barriers are to reporting, and what we can do about it. So we've been having community conversations in
Yep.
different areas of the state and virtual to get some feedback. And this is what our reports are showing. So
Yep.
one of the other things that people have brought up a lot is loneliness and isolation, and often being taught to be overly compliant or obedient. So when Cindy was talking about, you know, being threatened and told, you know, if you tell anyone, I'll kill you, or any of those kinds of things, people are often threatened or told you're supposed to do what I tell you to do, and believe that. And then one of the other big barriers we're seeing is lack of training in resources in healthcare settings to help survivors with disabilities. There is trauma-informed care, which is a great place to start, but it's not necessarily designed for people with disabilities. And we do need different kinds of supports and care when it comes to both accessing resources and seeking healthcare support. So the other thing that I would say is one of the things that I really appreciated coming out of this community conversation, and you can speak to this too, Cindy.
Okay.
But one of the things that I really appreciated coming out of it was we've been trying as hard as we can to involve diverse communities throughout the state. Oh, all right. And so because we want to make sure that everyone's at the table, everyone's being heard, and everyone has a chance to speak up about what's going on. And one of the things that they have brought up is just not being acknowledged in the multiple ways that people with disabilities identify. And because I really appreciated the way Christy Carter spoke about it at one of our community conversations. She said, you know, we're all multifaceted people. We all identify in several ways. And sometimes the tough thing about the service system is it only looks at one aspect of who we are, and doesn't support the rest of who we are. And the more lenses or perspectives that you identify through, the more barriers you can experience. Would you agree with that, Cindy?
Yes, I do. And and I also, I got a lot out of it. I was one of the panelists, of course, on it. But people on here listening, you might even have a mother that's in a nursing home or places with disabilities or without. You don't know. Every day I don't know what's happening in my neighborhood. Somebody could be getting abused as we're sitting here in Nancy's area here over here. We just don't know. And so we got to be more aware of people with disabilities. And what I've learned, there's warning signs for people with disabilities. They get quiet. they withdraw and all kinds of, and it's so sad, you know. And I didn't have a voice back then because nobody was believing me. I was too young. Who listens to a child? Who listens to a 7 or 6-year-old? Okay, so who does? You know, and so I just feel that we have to be the ears and the eyes of other people with disabilities. And so many people with disabilities have. I mean, last year there was a big article in the New York Times, which I get, and it was so serious of how this person was sexually assaulted over and over. Finally, they did something about it after this person was sexually assaulted 30 to 40 times. Yeah. So there you go. It's the truth.
Yeah, yeah, it
And
is.
it's so sad you have to read it in the paper.
Yeah,
And nobody deserves to have their body violated, including my body, which was violated. Do I hate people for it? At first I was very angry, and yes, but I decided that I would take my anger and to talk to other people about this and have people start listening to people that's been sexually assaulted. And no, we don't make this stuff up, especially when you were my age. I mean, little, you haven't even been to the sexy, the classes. So
mhm.
I just feel that the more education I talk about my story and then listen to other people's stories, it makes me a stronger person. That's what I have to say. Is that okay with you? Is that good, Stephanie?
That's awesome, Cindy, and I agree with you.
I
The
mean, you got to have some real life stories in this too, to make people understand. Yes, you're looking at my face. Oh, nothing's ever happened to Cindy. Oh, yes, it did.
oh
Oh,
yeah,
yes, it did. People say, oh, she's a intelligent. Nothing's happened to her. Oh, yes, it did. And I still have the trauma to this day. I don't think I'll ever get over the trauma, but it gets better every time I talk about my story. Now, today I'm not sweaty and I didn't lose any sleep. Usually when I was first I did it, I had lost a lot of sleep. Last night I slept good, no sweats. So I think the more I talk about it, I'm healing myself. But we
that's
got to teach other people with disabilities so they can heal.
yeah, and that's great. I'm
Yeah.
so encouraged by that, Cindy, because I will tell you, I'm more at the sweating and not sleeping stage, but it's okay. It's okay. Everybody's at a different point.
And I'm there for you, Steph, always.
Yeah, I appreciate that so much. And there are a couple more points on
Yeah,
the list.
thank you. Yeah,
Oh,
I love you. I know this is hard. It's hard for me too. And
it
I
is.
think it's hard for Nancy too, because every time we talk about it, it's not a subject where you're gonna come out of here without some tears. And usually it's after the fact, after I've talked my story, that it's kind of hard for the rest of the day, but it's just worth it. It
Yeah,
really is.
yeah, I have that pretty much that same experience, and I love you too. We'll get through this together.
Now, Steph,
So,
you got
uh,
you're next.
yeah, I'm next.
Again, which I
It's
like.
okay. It's okay.
And I
So,
shared my story, so I know I shared it ahead of time, but it's okay because I can share some more of the story, but I know you're going to talk about sexual violence and disability, so that's fine.
yeah, we can definitely share a bit more here in a minute. That's absolutely fine. Um, so some of the other things that we commonly see, and I would say this is true in my life for sure, is that there's a perception or thinking that individuals with disabilities are asexual, and what that means is they're not either non-sexual or not interested in sex. And I can personally say, and I think a lot of us can. That is not the case.
Man, you're right about that one.
Do not forget, do not let our disabilities overshadow who we are. We are people, we are human beings.
Amen.
So those that desire and that want for relationship and want for sexual contact is normal and it's in there. And then the other thing that we have really discovered is there is a lack of education and long-term support services for people with disabilities and survivors who go through sexual violence. And I know that's a lot of kind of heavy and hard information, but the great thing that we are also finding out is that community connection is really key in not only making sure people with disabilities are protected, but that they are safe and they are part of their communities. And I think a big reason community connection matters is that when someone is involved in things and has friends and has things that they do, you're going to see them a lot more. You're going to know who they are. You're going to get to know them and know what's normal for them and what's not. And if for some reason they're not there all of a sudden, people start to go, well, what the heck? Where's Steph? She's almost always here. You know, is she okay? And they'll start checking and making sure that you're safe and you're healthy. And you will do the same thing for other people. So like Cindy was saying, it's being being aware of who's there and standing up for each other. And the amazing thing that we have found is people who are socially connected and part of their community are 2 times more likely to report feeling safe, 3 times more likely to exercise their rights, which is super important, 5 times more likely to perform social roles, and 6 times more likely to participate in their community. So you can really see how that reflects safety and protection and also belonging in the community. Is there anything you'd like to add, Cindy?
I just say, know your people. If you don't see a person, say this person goes to church and person hasn't been in church for a while for whatever, I say always check on your family members. And we don't talk about the elderly abuse because we are focused on, on the disability, but in elderly, some of our elderly people that have disabilities, I fear nursing homes. I fear them. I fear them for a lot of reasons. How things can happen to people there. So if you have a family member too, I think we have to look. My thing is, I'll just sum it up, is we need to look out for each other. Sisters, we are sisters and brothers. We don't have to come from the same family. But I think it's important that we always look out for one another. Your family member, your mother, your father, a good close friend, and then all of a sudden your close friend is not coming around, maybe a high school friend or whatever, and you get worried, and then you gotta take action. That's you have to take. Sometimes those are some signs. I do know the signs now, and for people with disabilities, they just get very depressed and withdraw, like I was like that. So I just think we need to be more aware, since the people, like the Department of Social Services, that you tell them. I mean, we had a person call our office about 2 years ago, and we reported it. But they said, oh, we'll take care of it. Well, we're running the file, and that's all they did was. Now, how can we help somebody if the, so what do they call that again? It's protective services or whatever they call them through our county. I was so mad with them, and and the HIPAA laws don't help when somebody's in trouble either, so So the HIPAA laws is really cause a lot of problems. I believe in privacy, but I do not believe in privacy when somebody's getting hurt.
Right, right. Because
You
it
know what
can,
I'm talking about? Yeah.
because it
So
can,
that's all I wanted to sum it up, and that's my feelings on this. We got a lot of work to do around this, but if we like you said, Steph, we have to start the conversation, and we ain't got need to get to our legislatures. Too. So
yeah, yeah.
you
Um,
know,
yeah,
yeah.
and we'll definitely include that here in uh,
This is, I think we have to go to the other one.
oh,
The
the next
yeah,
slide.
we gotta, yeah. And
Okay,
I don't need to tell my story because I already, sum it up with what I had to say. And
right.
I might add a few things, but I'm not gonna redo the story again, so you know.
That's that's all right, Cindy. That's all right. Thank
But
you.
you can, the one you probably want to read is, we started, yeah.
Yeah, I can talk
I think,
about my
yeah,
story.
your experience, please,
Oh,
and thank you.
yeah, absolutely. So
Sorry
I
for jumping the gun before. I didn't, I looked through the slides, but I didn't know really how it was supposed to go. So just forgive me for that part.
oh, Cindy, it's fine. It's fine. It's more of like a guide, and it's okay. Um,
I
I,
use
I
this,
I'm
I
glad you.
usually, yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
I
Go
usually
ahead.
speak from the heart. I don't, this stuff is not my, so I just tell it like, I just tell it like it is, so you know. Thank you for understanding, Steph.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And it's totally fine. So,
Thank you.
I did want to reiterate that we started the Sexual Violence Prevention Project. We're going to identify barriers, support our community, and create change. The desire to do this came from understanding and experience. So um, feel free to add whatever you would like to your story at some point here, Cindy, but I can certainly share some of mine.
I'd like to hear your story, because I don't think I've heard your story. My story I've said. Let's just hear what you got to say, please, and thank you.
Okay, well, I am at the point in my journey here where I can admit that I'm a sexual violence survivor, but I have a very difficult time going into detail about the
Yeah.
abuse and assault that I experienced. What I can say about it is I was a little older than Cindy when it happened. I was probably between the ages of 10 and 12. So I knew enough to know um, what was happening. But I wasn't old enough where had can I could control it or had a lot that I could do to stop it. And the interesting thing, I guess, if you want to call it that, in my case was uh, it happened. As far as I know, it was privately dealt with. I don't remember law enforcement or lawyers being involved. And
Mm.
we moved on. And what ended up happening for me was that I kind of disconnected what happened to me. So my brain, it's not that I forgot what happened to me, but my brain buried it. And I think part of the reason it got buried was because of how young I was when it happened. And I didn't have the tools and coping skills to emotionally handle it. And I think your brain is an interesting thing because it often
There
protects,
is.
yeah, it often protects you from knowledge until you're ready to handle it. And I did not know that at the time because I was very young. So um, it got buried and I moved on, and I think I was probably 18 years old, and I was sitting in a high school classroom in a sociology class. And part of the lesson that our teacher was in charge of making sure we understood was sexual assault. And she went into a student's story that she had, a former student story that she had permission to share with the class. And to this day, I can't tell you exactly what it was, but something in what she said, it's almost like it flipped a switch in my brain. And all of a sudden, all of these images of what had happened to me started coming back up. But I had no reference for it. And so I ended up very quickly excusing myself from class, going to the bathroom and just throwing up and crying in the
Oh
bath.
my God.
Yeah, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't understand why this was happening. And it's one of the only times I can recall in my life
Yeah.
feeling the sensation like somebody had punched me in the stomach really, really, really hard. And I just I kind of fell apart. And so I went to some people who I trusted, and I said, I'm sorry to do this, but I have to ask you a very hard question. And so I described what was happening, and I said, did this really happen? What is going on? And they had to sit me down very gently and say, yes, I'm sorry. It really did happen. And
I'll be.
I I didn't quite know what to do because it's almost like it happens to you twice in a way, because there's the initial assault and then all of the memories, and dealing with it again almost. So from that point forward, I started kind of trying to navigate it and figure it out and rebuild as I could. But at that point in time, I didn't really have mental health support. So I was doing a lot of it
Yeah.
on my own, and I didn't really feel comfortable talking to someone about it. Uh, and I will say it helped put a lot of things in perspective, though, because what happens when, at least for me, I can speak to my own experience. What happened to me meant that I had all of the physical reactions that you would have to being abused or assaulted, but no reference for them for a while. So I would have strange reactions to certain things and not understand where they were coming from or why I was having them. So understanding that this had happened put that reference point back in and made a lot more, helped things make a lot more sense. To give you an example, I never liked it when someone would come up behind me and like hug me around the waist. It I never knew it was coming, and I would always tense up. And my immediate instinct was to elbow the person, and I never understood why. And there are some funny stories related to this. Like a friend of mine wanted to surprise me with a slushie. And she came up behind me and gave me a hug and was going to give me the slushie. And elbowed, and I elbowed so hard my elbow went through the cup,
Oh,
and
boy.
the slushy went.
All over for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the slushy went flying everywhere,
Oh,
and,
geez.
and I was just like, oh, I don't like it when people come up behind me and
Uh-huh.
you know they're
I'm the
there, and
same way. I'm the same way.
yeah, and she's like, well, obviously. I'm like, I'm sorry. So but knowing some of those things, um it really helped me understand why I had some of those reactions. Um the um the
He wants to know why somebody asked Stephanie, why are there not men on this? We don't, I don't, do, well, do we have an answer to that one?
I I'm
I don't know.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know. But
I have my own opinion why there's no, for myself, but I have to stay professional because, for me, I don't think I'd be comfortable with any man on what I'm talking about this, but I don't know. I don't know why we never, there is one man on here. Nathaniel's on here
yeah,
somewhere. We have one of our staff on it. Nathaniel's on it. I forgot about Nathaniel. I don't know. That's the only guy I've seen on there.
Well, the reason why I brought up the question, Cindy, is that men can learn from this presentation too. And men can learn what women go through. That's why I brought it. That's why
I think it's not appropriate for this right now, Nathaniel. I hate to say this in a nice way. I'll talk to you offline about it.
No, it's fine. Thank you. Thank you.
Because we're trying to survive this, I guess, right, Nancy? It's more about getting us to survive. It's hard. So yes, it's not an appropriate question right now, Nathaniel. Okay,
no.
thank you.
But when I was trying to navigate this in my early 20s, the difficulty that I had, I think, was it left me with a, a very overactive, almost self-preservation instinct. So
yeah,
it didn't matter if it was negative attention or positive attention. I really I couldn't tell the difference. And so even if somebody was trying to have a normal interaction with me and let me know that they were interested in me, I couldn't um, tell that that was healthy, positive attention or negative, dangerous attention. So I just ended up running from a lot of things and trying to put things back together, because I do think one of the things that happens if this happens to you, at least for me, um, it breaks things that
yeah,
it's difficult to fix, and when you do begin to put them back together, they're going to look different. They're going to function different. So your sense of safety, your sense of trust, your sense of personal value, and those things are really hard to rebuild, and they're gonna work differently from that point on, I think. And for most of us, hopefully, your sense of trust changes over time. Your sense of safety changes over time. Your sense of self changes over time. What I found is when abuse or assault happens, sexual violence happens, all of those things kind of break at once. And the guideposts that are supposed to help you along the way and help those things develop along the way disappear. Because you can't tell. don't have those anymore. You can't tell who's a safe person and who isn't for a while. Can't, um, it just takes a while for that frame of reference to develop. Oh, and so that's what happened with me. And I'm pretty sure I ran from some pretty good people back at that time, but I didn't know what else. I didn't know how to handle it. And what I decided to do around my mid-20s was I'm like, I don't think I'm in the healthiest place to try to do this right now.
Mhm.
I think I'm going to sit on the sidelines for a while and figure it out for myself. Try to figure myself out, figure out what I want to do and how I want to move forward.
Mhm.
But I didn't know that there were people in my life who had come into my life that made me feel very calm, very safe, and very comfortable to be myself. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to sit here for a while and figure this out. But the next time somebody comes into my life who makes me feel that way, I'm going to do my very best. I'm going to try to pursue it. I'm going to try to see where it goes. I'm going to try to build a relationship with that person. And that's where I'll leave it for now. But Cindy, I know you wanted to talk about what's needed to start changing things. And some of the stuff I think you covered in our list here.
Yeah, and I did. And I just want to say, oh, sorry. I was going to sneeze, but I'm on. So listening to your story, I still to this day, I am very cautious of who's going to give me a hug,
Mhm.
who's going to touch me. I don't even like taking showers with anybody. And I remember at 99 games, Special Olympics, the coach, uh, and we were in Yale University, I think, or whatever, and you had to share the shower. I said, I'm washing up. And the coach said, you're all sweaty. I said, and I just told her I'm not taking a shower with nobody else because of, it was horrible. I had that fear.
Yep.
And so then I don't like anybody when I'm taking a shower or eating. If I'm in somebody's house, I lock the door. When I'm in any bathroom I'm in, I lock the door. I don't want nobody coming in trying to, violate my body. And I'm going to tell you now that what I know now. I took a class, and they say you take I forgot what it was, and you can poke them right in the eye. I took a self-defense class, and it has helped me to, so if somebody does try anything. And then another thing, and the person on here, don't take that, we only have one man on here, but if somebody's gonna touch my body, I can also, there's there's a part where you can kick them where it counts. It's a truth.
Yeah.
That's what I was taught. Anybody touches my body or whatever again and do whatever they thought they can do to me, well, I know how to protect myself. And I realized that I still don't like, ask Nancy, sometimes I don't like to be touched. That's how I am. I don't like somebody coming up behind me and, either. And we got, and I understand where you're coming from. Your story is so powerful. Every time I hear somebody else, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've been through a lot. I might
Yeah.
have been younger, but it don't matter what age. To me, it's not the age. It is that there's just too many bad people out there thinking they can do anything they want to somebody's body and get away with it. And I'm not against men. I don't say I like a lot of men. I have some good friends that are men, but I'm very cautious with all of them.
Yeah.
You ain't just coming in my house and sitting down in my living room. And I'm not that kind of person. I can't let a man in my house, I have to, my friend Michael, which is inspired, I think he's harmless, but I still have my guards up. And I know him for a long time. Nathaniel and me are good friends. But, you know, I don't think Nathaniel would do anything either. But the thing is, people don't understand it. You are always going to have these fears of, I'll have this fear all the rest of my life.
Yeah, it's something you continually really deal with and work through. And I will
It's
say
just,
one of the
it's hard.
it is. And one of the things that helped me, Cindy, when it
Yeah.
comes to people coming up behind me, because sometimes they're trying to be loving, not trying to
Yeah,
be,
I
and
do
I get that,
understand
but
that.
yeah, one of the things, especially
I
with my nieces
feel
and
I feel creepy when they sneak out and then put their hand up like they're gonna do something. This is what happened to me in the middle of my sleep. I was as sexually assaulted while I was in the middle of my sleep
yeah,
in my bed, thinking
yeah,
that I have one safe place was my bed. And every single night, Mike, you know how I'm getting over this. My good friend said you need to get a pet, you know, like a cat I have the, and Dory, my cat knows my triggers, and she always sleeps out. Every night she sleeps under my chin, and I feel so safe and warm. She's warm, and I feel I can get a good night's sleep. But when this morning, I didn't tell Nancy this. This morning, I started to think about this presentation, and I did a little crying in the bathroom. Kitty was right there on the sink. You
oh
know,
yeah,
kind of got her paws a little wet, but she got up there. She knew and then I felt she made me feel calm, and I knew I can do this presentation. I knew I could do it. I just kept myself busy, and Miss Nathaniel thing yesterday was really beautiful. That helped me my mind off of this.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I also think, Stephanie, I think the rest of our lives, I'm gonna suffer with this. I'm gonna have trauma all the rest of my life for what I went through. It's hard when you're sexually assaulted when you're a kid and when you don't know anything uh about sexually assault, and you don't know about the birds and the bees, as they call it. So
right,
that's what they called it. And when I was in the birds and the bees, it's like, but I wasn't in high school. I was still in grade school. Grade school, you don't get those lessons. So the people
right.
the people that's on here today, make sure, you talk a little bit to your kids and people with disabilities about the birds and bees, just in case something would happen.
Right,
Because
right. That's very important.
you
Yeah.
only can protect when they're in school, the teachers are supposed to be protecting us, or you know what I mean, supposed to protect us. And they're supposed to be our parents while we're in school. That's what I feel. But this happened before I even got to school. And for you, I feel so bad, and I'm seeking more therapy now because of this. After doing this talk, a few times, I've been a couple of them, doing one in a few weeks. So I thought I'm going to seek some therapy because I think I haven't really got out what I need to get out about, what happened to me. And then
That's
another thing, and
yeah,
another
go.
thing another thing people say to you, get over it. How do you get over something like this? It's a trauma that I never want to have to the Garen, and I'll have this until the day I go to my grave. I'm sorry, but that's how I feel about it. There's triggers,
Yeah,
and
there are.
and
But I
certain things. I'm scared to go out in the dark 2 months by myself because you never know. No, even last night, Nancy was dropping me off. She walked me up the stairs, but then there was a man walking past Nancy, and I watched until she got in her car and pulled off because you don't know who, you don't want to just kill somebody. But I stayed in that window until I know she was safe back in her car because it's just so horrible. There's so many people that want to hurt people.
Yeah, well, and I think getting mental health support is great for
Very
you. I mean,
important. I don't believe in
it
medication.
really,
Yeah, but I need to talk. I think the best medicine is to get a therapist, talk about it, and forget the medicine. I'm not a medicine person, never. But I don't think
yeah,
it's helped. I've tried to take some medication. It doesn't help. The trauma's still there. The nightmare's still there, and
right.
I just have to try to deal with it. So,
Yeah, I finally started getting some mental health support in my 30s.
okay,
Because I very much like I'm in the same boat as you are, Cindy.
yeah, you are.
Where it just started to get too much and too
Yeah,
hard. I went through um that wasn't the only instance. We don't have time today to get into the whole thing, but there were
right. I
multiple
understand.
occurrences.
Yeah. And so I'm
So
just saying to you too, yeah. It's hard, Steph. It's very hard. And anytime you want to talk to me, and if you do have a pet, those pets are the greatest. They
yeah,
just they know your triggers. They know when you're sad, they know when you're happy. And my kitty is she's just a nice little fluffy little warm kitty and sleeps under my tent every night. So
yeah,
it's like so when I'm away from home, that's what a lot of triggers is when I'm away from home and I'm at another house, somebody else's house overnight, and I don't have kitty with me, but I just try
yeah.
to learn to live with that. So
Yeah, Ben and I have 3 cats, and they're I mean, they're wonderful.
three
Um,
cats, three?
3, yep.
Oh, geez. Okay, we'll talk about it. So we still have the moving forward. So do you
Yeah,
want to
let's
do that one? Can we do that one?
sure, I can do that one. Let's go to the next slide, because we do wanna have some time for questions
Yes,
here.
we do. We want to make sure we have people talking to us too. And
Um,
thank you on here, audience, for listening to us. We just want to make sure that you know what we've been through, and if you've been through something, if you want to share, you're welcome to share.
um, so I just wanted to, cover kind of what Cindy and I have
Yeah.
discovered, other than cats, some of the things that have helped us move forward a little bit. And Cindy covered it perfectly. This is a lifelong process, and it's different for every survivor.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's something that when it happens, you're going to carry it with you, but you can move forward. Wherever you are in that process, if you're on the call with us today and you've experienced this, it is okay.
Yes.
And Cindy also touched on to triggers and re-traumatizing things will probably happen. They certainly have in my life. They certainly have in Cindy's.
Yes.
Um,
Amen.
yeah. While it is difficult to find healthcare that where they have training to help support people with disabilities, trauma-informed healthcare is a great place to start. And mental health support. So when I was in my 30s, I was just dealing with too many things. And I was starting to have panic attacks a lot, having a lot of anxiety, not feeling safe in my own home, not wanting to be there and things like that. And I came to the crossroads of this is not how I want to live my life. I need help. I need
Yeah.
somebody to help me cope and give me some tools to work through trauma. So I agree with Cindy. If you feel like it's time that you got some help, there's help out there. And we can certainly cover that in a little bit here. And
And
the
I
other,
got a listening. Oh, sorry. And in my letter, I put out every 2 week weekly letter, and I put in there for if you want to call me, my phone's open most till about 9 o'clock. So if you just want to talk to a friend, that you don't feel like, calling the 88 number or whatever. I'm here because we women need support and we need to be able to listen to each other. So wouldn't put any judgment on you. I'm just there to listen. And I think that's what we have to do sometimes. We have to just be that moral support for the person that's suffering.
Right. And the other thing that I would say is listen to your instincts and have an exit plan when you're in situations that do not feel safe. I do have examples, but
Yeah,
that
resources,
might,
support, yeah.
yeah, that might be something we would cover a little later
Okay,
because
so,
we do want
yeah,
a little
yeah.
bit of time here.
So do we want to
And,
ask questions?
oh, hang on just a second, Cindy, because we gotta get our resources up here too.
Yeah,
But
sorry, I went
okay,
too fast, sorry.
that's okay, Cindy. That's okay. But the other thing that staying involved, getting involved and staying connected, doing things that you enjoy, that really does help kind of reset yourself. And one of the biggest points I think we both wanted to make is remember, you can still experience and are worthy of experience. That's very important. Worthy of experiencing good things like purpose, joy, connection, love, sex, and more. And the reason I want to put this on here is there was a time in my life I did not see being in a relationship as a possibility. I didn't see getting married as a possibility. I didn't know how to talk to someone about this part of my life. I didn't know if they would accept it and love me anyway. And I want you to take a look at our pictures here because you can see our smiling faces. And I hope that that gives you hope today. Because it is possible to still have a full life and a fulfilled life and carry this with you. And the lovely gentleman next to me in my picture is my husband. We will, yeah, that's Ben. We will be married 5 years this summer. And one of the wonderful, one of the wonderful gifts he gave me was permission to talk about it or not talk about it.
Yeah.
And he said, look, I know enough to know you've been through a lot of things. I know those things are hard. I know they've happened multiple times. If you want to talk to me about it, you can talk to me about it. If it's too hard for you, you don't have to talk to me about it. I don't think you're hiding things from me. I don't think you're keeping secrets from me. I understand. And that was
a good husband.
Oh, he's a great husband. And that was huge to me. That was huge because it gave me the freedom to move on and also the words to tell other people that I love this, but I can't talk about all of it. That is okay. So bring up those resources, Angie. Next slide.
I think the next slide is questions first.
Well, yeah, I'm just gonna, there's some resources here on these next 2 slides. So when we send the presentation out, please go through them and
they got mixed up as well.
Find the support that you need. And if there's resources that are missing from this list, feel free to reach out to us because we are opportunity mapping and trying to find and connect services. So go ahead and go forward to questions, Angie, I think second to last slide here. And we'll take some questions.
What is the community conversation? It went off again.
Oh, it's okay. Oh, what is the community conversation panel? Okay,
It's
so,
over.
well, I put a link to the
Oh.
panel recording there. So,
Oh, okay.
as part of our community conversation events, we had a panel of service providers, survivors, and
Mm.
different agencies come and speak about the issue and give their insight and their support. And so that is a link to that recording.
We had a judge there, right? We had a peer and a judge, advocate me. We had somebody that yeah, and we had somebody that deals with human trafficking for people with disabilities. Very much, it's very dangerous here in Milwaukee with human trafficking, and they have to move. And these are vulnerable people with disabilities. Found that out. We shared in, and it's the other thing. If you don't know about human trafficking, it is very maybe every city, but Milwaukee seems to be they even have a task force now trying to get a handle on it in Milwaukee. So, yeah. And these are people with disabilities because they want to date in that, and they get wrapped up in this thinking that these people will love them, and they don't. And then, they get in danger, and then the person has to move sometime out of the city just to keep them safe. So, yeah. So,
Yeah, yeah.
So, and then no questions are bad ones. So please ask us questions, please. If you have any.
Questions can keep coming. I'm just gonna move it to the last slide so people can
Yeah.
see your thank you, but I'll also, did you have a slide that had your information on it? Your contact information?
Oh, I didn't actually put our contact information in there. I can put it in the chat.
Cool, that'd be awesome.
So,
Yeah, we can do that.
yeah.
We have to thank, yeah, you can put mine in. We have to thank Stephanie for getting this together. I was traveling and very busy, but we got it. We got everything good. Thanks to Steph.
Oh, I got your back, Cindy. We can do it. So,
Yeah, excuse me. They will answer to some questions. How many minutes do we have to ask? They have for questions.
we have about 15 minutes, Cindy.
Okay, so we want to hear from you. So,
Yeah, and I do agree with Cindy that no question's a bad question. So,
no, it's not, because this is such an important conversation for people. And I think sometimes people take this as not serious for people with disabilities, but as far as I'm concerned, it's very serious. And if we don't do something about it, it's going to get worse.
yep.
Can I just make a comment?
Yes, please.
I'm my name is Barb, and I work at the Alliance Church here in town, and I've had some experience in schools doing some education for healthy touch kind of things for elementary kids. So I know how important it is to get that information out here. And I just wanted to also state that I really appreciated your comments about connection in the community, that the more that people know who we are, the more chances that people will stand up for themselves and have a voice. So education for parents and support people is also important, as well as the ones education for the person itself with disabilities. Would you agree with that? That parental support, sibling support, all of that is important, because I think many people don't even realize it's a hard topic to talk about, and then I think it's hard to take all of that information and then put it on another population that struggles with other things as well. So I know that's what I'll use some of the things I learned today for, is to let our population know what to watch for, those kind of things.
We have a raised hand. Your name is, what's her name right there? Thank you. Yes. We'll answer your question too. Yes. I totally agree with you. Absolutely. Barb.
Yeah,
And Jenny?
I think that's spot on, Barb. As far as how much support and education is needed all the way around. But yeah, go ahead, Jenny.
I guess I'm thinking out loud and asking a question about, thank you both very much once again for doing this, Cindy and Steph. Very moving and very difficult, but I really appreciate you both so much. Thinking about, I think sometime when you're talking about the idea, like when people think, oh, people with disabilities don't, they're asexual, they don't have identities beyond their disability, and all those different things. And like, how do we, I think, and as a parent, I've always started really young with my own kids about, this is your private area. This is just your body, only people, and like, I still remember my oldest, when we went to the doctor for one, really, she was really young, and the doctor was there, and right away with an examination, Sophia's like, you can't touch me, that's my private area, and very young. And
that's good.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. And I guess my question in everybody to think about, I guess, in our communities, and as we're doing like the community mapping, how do we get to that youngest age? You know what I mean? How do we reach people, parents with children with disabilities, and really all children? Because I think it really needs to start really, really young, and I guess, any ideas on how do we reach that population?
Right.
Go ahead, Cindy.
We can both talk on it. I think how we're gonna reach it, we just have to start the conversation with the parents. Some kids don't have parents, that's the other thing.
Right.
But I think by the time I think 3 or 4 is kind of young, but you can still maybe talk to them anyway, this is your body, I can't touch your body.
Mm-hmm.
By that time they're out of diapers, or
Mm-hmm.
so then, but I think by the time they get 5 years old,
Mm-hmm.
the parents need to have the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we need to make sure these health people start talking about it. When they get an examination, I think they just need to start talking to kids
Mm-hmm.
about that. And even the grandma can talk too, if the grandma's taking care of them, and get to, always, I think the mother has to, but a lot of grandmas are the mother has too, because
Mm-hmm.
so you just start that conversation. And to me, we always say, I wish I was 5, 6 when all this started coming. I was very young,
Right.
younger than Stephanie. I mean, but we still need to have that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I still remember the nightmare where I was asleep, where this person, a pervert, I call it now, but how dare you violate my body? that age. I mean,
Mhm.
but I think the healthcare system needs to start younger.
Mhm.
We can't wait till we're having health class at 16 years
No.
old. Not in this the 21st century.
Mm-mm.
They're not, they gotta get up with the times. But I think if there's a lot of good parents out there, and you just start, you know, carefully saying, you know, break it down in their age group.
Right. Yeah, that's what I
Nobody
was
can touch your
interested.
legs or your,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
the backside of you either.
Right. Right.
So in a nice way. That's what I think. And what do you got, Stephanie?
Well, I was gonna say, as far as reaching that population, I think one way we could do that is to reach out to some birth to 3 or early
Yeah.
child.
Oh,
Yeah,
very good. Yeah.
yeah, Birth to Three needs to start talking about that.
And work
Yeah.
from there.
And look at signs. Also, look at, you know, the kids might have a different sign. They withdraw too. And we're always thinking, no, they're just depressed. Something could have really been happening, exactly as and they don't know how to talk about that at 3, you know, 3 to
Mhm.
probably 5 or 6 years old. But you got to do it, you know. But that Birth to 3, I love it. I think it's good. And then pediatricians and pediatricians,
Yeah, if we can get
you
to some
know.
writers and some of those things, that might be another way to do it. Because sometimes going directly to parents can be difficult.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But and I just do want to say, keep speaking up, keep talking
Yeah.
about, because I'll tell you, there's been multiple instances in my life where things have happened, and it took 4 or 5 times of going through some of these things before I was able to press charges and actually get some legal help with it. That was for a criminal level sexual harassment incident. So it does take a very, unfortunately, still, it does take a very long time to be believed. We're hoping that the work that we do here is going to start changing that. But please, if you see something, say something. If it's happening to you, keep speaking up. I made a promise to myself after what I went through as a child, that if I was to go through these things again, I would speak up and I would do things. And I would try to stand in the gap for other victims and survivors. And I have done that. It just takes a while
Yeah.
at this point to get successfully listened to. But keep going, and we are here. We do believe you. So okay.
You know, and I like what you said, Steph. I mean, 26 years old. This happened when I was younger at the center. Then at 26, I decided that this person was going to jail. Somebody was going to jail. If I'm leaving the center and he thought he was just going to do whatever he was going to do. So I spoke up, and there was a couple of my friends that too. And then they spoke up. We had all the evidence. Finally, somebody believed me. Somebody, not only me, but there was 5 more victims, including me. So it was 6, and it was down in the center's down in Racine County. But because they had all the evidence, this person did a lot of time, and he died about a few years ago. And it still has. I don't want him to die, but I did want him to I got justice. But now it's kind of like I don't have to worry about being scared that he'll come to Milwaukee and do something crazy. But that's still back in my what everything happened, you know. And every time I tell the story, I feel a little bit better about it. But then you got the triggers too with it, and then So I don't think it will ever go away, but I think it'll get better. And then I have a good support system, which has been very good. And when I started talking about it, I ain't got even a bigger support system. And then I thought I better seek therapy, and it's working pretty good. I don't know. I always thought therapists give you medicine. And I was an advocate. I said, I don't need medicine. I just need to be able to talk about how I feel. No medicine is going to cure this issue. So, you know how you get this thing is the first thing they want to do is give you medicine. That's the easy fix. Well, it's not the easy fix, not at all. So,
Well,
and anybody on here, you know, that works with people with disabilities, listen to what they got to say, because nobody can make up something like this. Nobody. And then we got to get to police, and you know, we need what we need in I think in Milwaukee is that we need this a certain people working on the work with disabilities when this happens. And I want to say, it just bothers me. We need just a task force, and then separate from their police officers, when they get the training, we get some trained people in there to help, so nobody else is going to be hurt.
yep, I agree with you, Cindy. And
Nobody else is going to be hurt. And as we're sitting here right now, ask Nancy, I say this all the time. We don't know who the next victim is going to be, because our neighborhoods and people walking around it. And when I see people walking around looking spread, I go right back in my apartment, and I shut the door. And Nancy knows, I sleep with a chair in front of my door every single night. I do. I put a chair there because if anybody's going to try to get to me, they have to get through the chair. By that time, I'm hoping the police will be right there to get the bad person. But it's hard to get in our building because of the door. I don't think it'll take them a while to get in, but still, we need to do better. We survivors need to help other survivors. And I know I got to do this talk again in a few weeks to what is it? Social. It's across the country. No, I'm talking about with Leslie. Oh yeah, so I want to try to educate them, is that these are, oh, it's like our social service here in Milwaukee. They don't listen. Are you guys all from Milwaukee? I wasn't sure where you're from. I know where Ginger's from, but you guys on this phone, where are you from? Not that I'm being nosy, but
well, I know where Barb's from. She's my mother-in-law, so she's
okay.
behind me. So
And I know where Jenny's from.
Milwaukee.
But it just seems like so many nice people. Oh, Milwaukee, Kenosha, Sheboygan.
There we go.
Uh-huh. So I think we all have to do our job to help people. Ooh, a lot of Kenosha and Waukesha, Manitowoc. Yes.
great to
Fond
have-
du Lac.
yeah.
Carrie, Wisconsin. Oh, Carrie, what is that? West Menominee? Right here.
Cool.
Okay. Well, you know, I think we need to have another one of these, only because I enjoyed this, but I also, you just have to be honest about, and we got a crisis. We know we have a caregiver crisis, but we also have a crisis with this too. And people suffering.
I know you were bringing up cats before, Cindy. I see Angie's cat is on with us.
Okay, yes, and oh, hi, baby. I love kitties. Now that kitty is sweet.
Yeah, that's a sweet one.
And Angie, I'm sure your kitty keeps you very, oh my God. Look at this
Yeah,
face.
she's
Sorry, guys.
She's very snuggly. I know we're at about
Yeah, right.
2:30, so
Yeah,
I want to make sure that there weren't any last
yes,
questions before
yes.
we wrap up. Stephanie, I'm not sure if you wanted to get if there was a wrap up that you all had in mind, if you and
Did
Cynthia
you
had
have one,
something.
Stephanie?
Well, I did see a question about whether we were working with, I think it was local victim services support. And we are working to, that's part of what the opportunity mapping is about too, is connecting services in different communities. So we are trying to connect with as many as we can. And we're hoping to see that silo of service come down so that they all kind of get connected to each other, so that when a survivor walks through the door, there is a history and a record of where they've been and what they've been through, so they don't have to recount that to every single service provider they come in contact with. Or kind of, that's a big goal, but we are
Yeah,
working. And I just wanted to say thank you all so much for coming.
yeah, yes,
I know this is a tough topic,
yeah.
and, but we very much appreciate you listening to us
Yes,
and
I do.
supporting us, telling our stories. So that was kind of all I had.
And you know, we also, I was on the, with disability rights, me and Angie, and we learned a lot. Such, and that's probably how I got myself in the door, I think, with trying to tell my story. Because I wasn't Pam Malley, she's great. Now, if you guys don't know who Pam Malley is, she works for disability rights, and if you need training from her, she's welcome to do. Right now, I think she's around the state and that doing safe and free on sex itself. So you know. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you
Yeah.
so very much to Cindy and Stephanie. It has, like I said, ever Cindy for a couple of years now, and Stephanie and I more closely in the past few months. But this is just the start of a working relationship, to make sure
Absolutely.
that we're having these important conversations in the future. So I just want to appreciate you both for sharing your stories. I know that is not an easy thing to do,
No,
and
it
we
isn't.
all
I got a
very much
stomach,
appreciate
but
it.
it's okay. I'll be
Oh,
fine. I'm
I'm
going to
very
the
glad you're
hockey
here.
game. I'm going to a hockey game tonight. It'll cool my nerves. I'm a
Good,
big hockey fan.
good,
There
good.
you
And I just want
and
to say thank you for everyone for being here today with us. It's um this isn't, like Cindy has mentioned, this is not an easy conversation to have, but just
Never.
thank you for being here. We appreciate you very much. And if you have any questions in the future,
Mhm.
we I can share my email as well, but we will be putting this on our YouTube page, and so I'll make sure to put their contact information in there. So if you have any questions in the future about service provision or healing from trauma, please don't hesitate to reach out.
And I think we should have another, I think we, I know we will, this gets me started. We have grants. And I think we need to, you know, like have